The icons of blood. A bone-chilling fog slithers through Moscow's frostbitten streets, wrapping the city in a suffocating veil on a December night in 1990, where the air reeks of coal, betrayal, and the ghosts of a shattered empire. In the shadowed heart of Komosomolskaya Square, where Moscow's 3 train stations pulse with the desperate hum of lost souls, a deal unfolds that will ignite a firestorm of greed and murder. A sacred icon, its gold frame glinting with the weight of centuries, is torn from a Yaroslavl church, its theft a sacrilege that sets off a chain reaction across borders, from the icy streets of Moscow to the opulent galleries of West Berlin. Viktor Likhovsky, a former Soviet citizen turned antiquities kingpin, rules this underworld from Berlin, his empire built on the plunder of Russia's soul, where icons are currency, and blood is the price. But when the KGB intercepts a shipment in Helsinki, exposing a diplomat's shame, the threads of Likhovsky's network begin to fray, revealing a web of smugglers, Anna and Vitaly Bus, Michael Eppel, Alexander Klimov, and the shadowy Yuri Gladkik, each bound by secrets darker than the Moscow night. 5 chapters plunge you into this heart-pounding saga, where every whisper could be a death sentence, and every relic carries a curse. From a stolen iconostasis in Yaroslavl to a Moscow-Kiev train that hides more than passengers, the KGB hunts a chain of betrayal that stretches to Berlin, where Likhovsky meets his brutal end in 1993, his blood staining the cobblestones. What did Anna Bus uncover in those sacred relics that made her a target for the KGB's wrath? Why did Likhovsky return to Moscow, knowing the noose was tightening? And what deadly secret did the icons hold, a secret worth killing for? In a city where faith was burned to ash by Soviet hands, these relics whisper of a past that refuses to die, their mournful gaze a harbinger of doom for those who dare to trade in them. As the Pacific hides the Larionov's crimes in Vladivostok, Moscow's shadows scream of another empire, one forged in gold and shattered in violence. Will the icons ever find peace, or will their curse drag more souls into the abyss, where the price of greed is paid in blood? Step into the darkness, the relics are calling, and their story will haunt you to the very end. Chapter 1, The Theft That Broke the Silence. In the flickering candlelight of a Yaroslavl church, a sacred relic vanished into the night, but what did it see in the hands of a thief that would spark a deadly chase across borders? The air inside the small Yaroslavl church is heavy with the scent of melted wax and ancient wood, the kind of smell that clings to your skin like a prayer on a cold October evening in 1990. The iconostasis, a 300-year-old masterpiece, glows softly in the candlelight, its gold frame catching the flame's flicker, each saint's mournful gaze a silent witness to a world that's forgotten them. The church is a sanctuary, its walls etched with the echoes of countless prayers, but tonight, it's a target. A shadow moves in the darkness, a local drunk known to the Yaroslavl militia, his breath reeking of cheap vodka, his hands trembling as he pries the iconostasis from its mount. The wood groans in protest, a sound that feels like a scream in the stillness, and the saint's eyes seem to follow him as he flees into the night, the relic tucked under his patched Soviet coat, its weight heavier than gold. Where is he taking it? Who paid him to betray his own faith? And what curse does this theft unleash on a land already scarred by loss? A city on the edge of chaos. Yaroslavl, 300 kilometers northeast of Moscow, is a city frozen in time, its golden domed churches a reminder of a Russia that once knelt in reverence. But in 1990, the Soviet Union is crumbling, its iron grip slipping, and the air smells of decay, both literal and metaphorical. The streets are slick with early snow, the wind carrying the bite of the Volga River, and the people huddle in their patched coats, their faces etched with the exhaustion of a nation on the brink. The Bolsheviks' legacy lingers like a ghost. 80 million icons once adorned Russia's churches and homes, but 30 million were destroyed in the Soviet purges, their gold frames melted, their wooden hearts burned to ash. Another 30 million were smuggled out, a cultural hemorrhage that began in the 1920s and continues in the shadows of the 1990s. In West Berlin, collectors clamor for these relics, turning sacred art into a black market goldmine, and men like Viktor Likhovsky, a former Soviet citizen turned antiquities kingpin, grow rich while Russia bleeds. But the KGB is watching, their eyes sharp, their patience thin. What do they know that the thieves don't? At the KGB's Lubyanka headquarters in Moscow, a fortress of secrets that looms like a tomb, Colonel Dmitry Volkov sits at his desk, the air thick with the stale scent of cigarette smoke and despair. His office is a mausoleum of files, each one a testament to the icons that have vanished. 20 million remain in Russia, a fraction of what once was, their loss a wound that festers in the nation's soul. Volkov's latest lead comes from an agent in West Berlin, a whisper of a massive shipment expected from the Soviet Union, a deal brokered by Likhovsky. A phone intercept confirms the rumor, the crackling line capturing a conversation between Berlin and Moscow, talk of icons, a restaurator named Anna, and a delivery that could flood the market. Who is Anna? Volkov wonders, his fingers tracing the edge of a file. And what does she know that makes her a target? He pulls two names from the archives, Anna Danilova and Anna Bus, two women tied to the antiquities trade, their lives now under his microscope. But in a city where shadows trade in faith, some secrets are worth killing for. The restaurators' secret. In a dimly lit apartment on Moscow's Tverskaya Street, the air is heavy with the scent of linseed oil and turpentine, a sharp tang that stings the eyes and clings to the walls. Anna Bus, 42, works late into the night, her hands steady as she brushes gold leaf onto a 17th-century icon of the Virgin Mary, the relic's mournful eyes seeming to plead for release. The only sound is the soft scrape of her brush and the distant hum of Moscow's traffic, a city that never truly sleeps. Her husband, Vitaly Bus, 45, watches from the doorway, his face etched with a fear that's grown sharper with each passing day, his fingers twitching as if they can feel the weight of what they've done. Both restaurators from Ivanovo, they've spent years breathing life into sacred relics, their hands coaxing faded colors back to vibrance, but lately, their work has taken a darker turn, icons that don't come from museums or the patriarchate, icons that arrive in the dead of night, their origins whispered in hurried exchanges. Where did these come from? Anna wonders, her brush pausing as she traces the Virgin's sorrowful gaze. And why does Vitaly look like he's seen a ghost? The couple has been withdrawing from the world, their friends noticing the absence. No more exhibitions, no more visits to the black market stalls on Tverskaya where restaurators trade secrets and whispers. The KGB's surveillance, ordered by Volkov, paints a picture of isolation, wiretaps on their phone, agents tailing their every move, informants watching from the shadows. But for months, there's nothing, no suspicious contacts, no leads, just the hum of a quiet life that feels too quiet, like the calm before a storm. Anna's hands tremble as she works, the weight of the icon heavier than it should be, as if the Virgin knows something she doesn't. Vitaly paces, his footsteps a restless rhythm, his eyes darting to the window as if expecting someone, or something, to emerge from the fog. What are they hiding? And who are they hiding from? The deal in the shadows. The fog is thicker now, a suffocating veil that blankets Moscow as Vitaly loads a massive crate into their ziguli, the wood creaking under its weight, the sound echoing like a gunshot in the stillness of the night. His breath clouds in the frigid air, his knuckles white on the wheel as he drives toward Taganka, a labyrinth of courtyards and passageways where the city's old bones meet its new sins. The first Kotelniki lane is a warren of shadows, the air smelling of wet pavement and coal smoke, the cold biting at his skin as he pulls to a stop, the engine idling like a heartbeat. Two men emerge from a beat-up Lada, its plates obscured by mud, their movements quick, their voices low, barely audible over the hum of the city. The crate is unloaded, its weight making the men grunt, and money changes hands, a thick wad of rubles that Vitaly stuffs into his coat, his eyes darting as if he senses the eyes on him. The crate disappears into the Lada, and the men drive off, their car weaving through the tangled streets, checking for tails with a skill that screams experience. The KGB agents, hidden in the shadows, watch with bated breath, their radios crackling with urgency as they follow the Lada. Who are these men? They wonder, their hearts pounding as the car slips through Taganka's maze, its driver a ghost in the fog. And what's in that crate that's worth risking everything? The trail leads to Strelitskaya Street, a quiet residential block where the crate is unloaded into an apartment owned by Michael Epple, a store director with a record too clean to be true. The KGB sets up surveillance, their instincts screaming that Epple is a cog in a larger machine, but who pulls the strings? And what does this deal have to do with a murder in Berlin 3 years later, a murder that will send shockwaves through the underworld? The fog thickens, and the answers remain just out of reach, waiting to spill their secrets in the next chapter. Chapter 2, The Square of Shadows. In the chaotic heart of Moscow's Komosomolskaya Square, a sacred icon changed hands under the KGB's watchful eyes, but what secret did it carry that turned the deal into a deadly game of cat and mouse? The fog clings to Moscow's Komosomolskaya Square like a shroud, the air thick with the acrid tang of diesel and the faint, ghostly scent of coal smoke on a biting October morning in 1990. The square is a pulsing artery of the city, where 3 train stations, Yaroslavl, Leningradsky, and Kazansky, collide in a symphony of chaos, their platforms alive with the shuffle of weary travelers, their faces etched with the exhaustion of a nation on the brink. The neon signs flicker in the haze, casting an eerie glow over the vendors hawking stale bread and cigarettes, their voices a low hum beneath the screech of arriving trains. In the shadows of this urban maelstrom, a deal unfolds, one that smells of linseed oil and sacrilege. A sacred icon, stolen from a Yaroslavl church just weeks ago, is about to change hands, its gold frame glinting with the promise of millions and the weight of a curse. But the KGB is watching, their agents hidden in the crowd, their radios crackling with whispers of a smuggling ring that's bleeding Russia dry. Who are they hunting? And what will they find in the crate that could unravel a web of betrayal stretching to Berlin? A web woven in secrets. Komosomolskaya Square is a labyrinth of desperation in 1990, a microcosm of Moscow's descent into chaos as the Soviet Union teeters on the edge of collapse. The air bites with the chill of early snow, the ground slick with melted slush, and the city smells of decay, both literal and moral. The Soviet purges that began in 1917 left a scar on Russia's soul, destroying 30 million icons, their gold frames melted, their wooden hearts burned to ash, while another 30 million were smuggled out, a cultural hemorrhage that continues in the shadows. West Berlin has become the epicenter of this black market, where collectors pay fortunes for relics of Russia's past, and men like Viktor Likhovsky, a former Soviet citizen turned antiquities kingpin, grow rich on the plunder. But the KGB, under Colonel Dmitry Volkov's relentless gaze, is closing in, their intelligence pointing to a massive shipment expected in Berlin, brokered by Likhovsky himself. A phone intercept mentioned a restaurator named Anna, and Volkov's team has narrowed it down to 2 women, Anna Danilova and Vitaly Bus, both tied to the antiquities trade, both now under surveillance. The first break came in Kotelniki Lane, where Volkov's agents followed Vitaly Bus, a restaurator from Ivanovo, as he delivered a crate to 2 men in a Lada, the exchange quick and shrouded in the fog of Taganka's backstreets. The crate led them to Strelitskaya Street, to an apartment owned by Michael Epple, a store director with a record too clean to be trusted. Surveillance revealed Epple's role as a middleman, his apartment a transit point for icons stolen from churches or bought for pennies from desperate villagers, then passed to restaurators like the bus couple before being smuggled west. But Epple is a cog in a larger machine, and Volkov's instincts scream that someone else pulls the strings, someone with the cunning to orchestrate a network this vast. Who is the mastermind? Volkov wonders, his fingers tracing the edge of a file. And what does this deal at Komosomolskaya Square have to do with a murder in Berlin 3 years from now? The deal in the square. The square buzzes with tension as Yuri Gladkik, a wiry man with a rap sheet longer than the Volga, moves through the crowd, his eyes darting like a hunted animal's. Gladkik, a repeat offender banned from living in Moscow, is a known broker on the black market, a man who thrives in the shadows of Komosomolskaya's train stations, connecting sellers with buyers who never meet face to face. Today, he's the linchpin in a deal orchestrated with precision, his hands slick with sweat as he clutches a crumpled note, a list of icons stolen from the Yaroslavl church, their gold frames worth a fortune in Berlin. Near Yaroslavl station, a nondescript Ziguli idles, its driver a seller from Yaroslavl, his face pale, his fingers tapping nervously on the wheel. Across the square, by Leningradsky station, Michael Eppel waits in another Ziguli, his store director's suit a stark contrast to the grime of the square, his eyes scanning the crowd for Gladkick. The deal is simple, the seller hands over the crate, Gladkick ferries it to Eppel, and the two parties never see each other, a setup designed to keep the chain intact, the links invisible. But who designed this system? And what happens if one link breaks? The KGB agents, hidden among the vendors and travelers, watch with bated breath, their cameras trained on Gladkick as he weaves through the crowd, the crate's weight slowing his steps. The air smells of burnt bread and desperation, the cold biting at their fingertips as they adjust their lenses, their radios crackling with updates. Target acquired, an agent whispers, his voice tight with anticipation. Don't lose him. Gladkick hands the crate to Eppel, the exchange quick, a wad of rubles passing between them like a whispered promise. Eppel loads the crate into his car, his movements precise, his face a mask of calm, but there's a flicker of unease in his eyes, a hint that he knows he's being watched. Does he sense the net closing in? The agents wonder, their pulses racing as Eppel drives off, the Ziguli disappearing into the fog. And what's in that crate that's worth risking everything? The chase that slipped away. The KGB surveillance team springs into action, their cars tailing Eppel's Ziguli through Moscow's tangled streets, the fog a suffocating veil that blurs the edges of the city. The air smells of wet pavement and exhaust, the cold seeping into their bones as they follow, their headlights dimmed to avoid detection. Eppel is cautious, his car weaving through side streets, doubling back, checking for tails with a skill that speaks of experience. Someone trained him, someone who knows the game. The agents' radios crackle with urgency, their voices tense as they report his movements, but the fog and Eppel's maneuvers make it a deadly dance. At a red light on a narrow street near the Moskva River, Eppel makes his move, his car surging forward against the signal, the taillights vanishing into the haze like a ghost swallowed by the night. The agents slam their fists on the dashboard, their shouts drowned by the hum of the city, their quarry gone. Who taught him to disappear like that? They wonder, their hearts sinking as the fog closes in. And where is he taking those icons? Back at Lubyanka, Volkov slams his fist on his desk, the sound echoing through the tomb-like office, the air thick with the scent of stale coffee and frustration. The failed chase is a blow, but the surveillance on Strelitskaya Street has painted a picture of Eppel's role, a middleman, a cog in a machine that stretches far beyond Moscow. Volkov's team identifies Eppel's partner, Alexander Klimov, a Soviet Army lieutenant colonel and lawyer, a man whose military precision suggests he's the brains behind the operation. But Klimov is a shadow, his movements cloaked in secrecy, and the KGB knows they're hunting a ghost. A month later, an informant close to the bus couple delivers a new lead. Anna and Vitaly are meeting a man they call Muzz at a toy store on Dimitrova Street, a meeting that could unravel the chain, or lead to another dead end. What does Muzz know? And why does Anna Bus sound so afraid on the wiretap, her voice trembling as she agrees to the rendezvous? The fog thickens, and the answers remain just out of reach, waiting to spill their secrets in the next chapter. Chapter 3, The Diplomat's Deception. In the deceptive calm of a Moscow toy store, Anna Bus met a man she called Muzz, but what secret did he carry that turned a simple handover into a deadly international chase? The air inside the toy store on Dimitrova Street smells of sawdust and cheap plastic, a faint sweetness undercut by the metallic tang of Moscow's early winter on a crisp October morning in 1990. Shelves are lined with faded dolls and tin soldiers, their painted smiles a mockery of the tension that crackles in the space between Anna Bus and the man she calls Muzz. Anna, 42, stands near a display of wooden trains, her hands trembling as she clutches a small canvas bag, the weight of its contents heavier than any toy, a bundle of icons, their gold frames meticulously restored, their sacred faces whispering secrets she's too afraid to voice. Her husband, Vitaly Bus, 45, lingers outside in their Ziguli, his eyes scanning the street through the fogged-up windshield, his breath shallow as he checks the reflections in shop windows for signs of a tail. The KGB is watching, their surveillance a net that's been tightening since the failed chase at Komosomolskaya Square, where Michael Eppel slipped through their fingers with a crate of stolen relics. Who is Muzz? The agents wonder, their hidden cameras trained on Anna as she shifts nervously, her gaze darting to the door. And what does he know that makes her so afraid? A city holding its breath. Moscow in October 1990 is a city holding its breath, its streets slick with melted snow, the air biting with the promise of a brutal winter. The Soviet Union is a crumbling empire, its collapse mere months away, and the city smells of desperation, coal smoke, stale bread, and the faint metallic tang of fear. Icons, once the heart of Russia's spiritual life, are now a black market currency, their value soaring as Western collectors hunger for a piece of history. Of the 80 million icons that once adorned the nation, 60 million have been lost, half destroyed by Soviet purges, half smuggled out in a cultural hemorrhage that began in 1917 and continues in the shadows. West Berlin is the epicenter of this trade, where men like Viktor Likhovsky, a former Soviet citizen turned antiquities kingpin, grow rich on Russia's plunder. But the KGB, led by Colonel Dmitry Volkov, is closing in, their intelligence pointing to a smuggling ring that stretches from Moscow to Berlin, a network of restaurators, brokers, and diplomats trading in sacred relics and blood. The Bus couple, Anna and Vitaly, have been under surveillance for months, their lives a quiet facade that hides a darker truth. The KGB's wiretaps caught whispers of fear, their informants noting the couple's withdrawal from the world. No more exhibitions, no more black market visits on Tverskaya Street. The failed chase at Komosomolskaya Square, where Eppel vanished with a crate of icons, confirmed their role as restaurators in the smuggling chain, working alongside Eppel and Yuri Gladkik, a repeat offender banned from Moscow. But the mastermind, Alexander Klimov, a Soviet army lieutenant colonel and lawyer, remains a shadow, his military precision orchestrating a network that Volkov is desperate to dismantle. The lead on Muzz is a breakthrough, but the stakes are higher than ever. What does Anna know that makes her a target? Volkov wonders, his fingers drumming on his desk at Lubyanka, the air thick with the scent of stale coffee and urgency. And who is Muzz, the man she's meeting at the toy store? The meeting at Dimitrova Street. The toy store is a deceptively calm stage, its bright displays a stark contrast to the darkness unfolding within. Anna stands near the wooden trains, her hands clutching the canvas bag, her breath shallow as she waits for Muzz. Vitaly, outside, checks his watch, his eyes darting to every shadow, every passerby, his heart pounding as he senses the invisible eyes on them. The KGB agents, positioned across the street, have learned from the Komosomolskaya failure. This time, they've set up early, their cameras hidden in parked cars, their radios silent but ready. The meeting was scheduled for 1 p.m., but Muzz arrives 2 hours early, a move that catches the agents off guard, their pulses racing as they adjust their focus. Anna's face pales as Muzz enters, a tall man in a tailored coat, his Russian tinged with a foreign accent, Finnish, perhaps, or German, his eyes cold but his smile disarming. He speaks softly, his words caught by the KGB's wiretap. I leave tomorrow evening. Helsinki. The icons are handed over, their gold frames glinting through the canvas, and Muzz slips them into a briefcase, his movements precise, almost rehearsed. Who is he? The agents wonder, their lenses zooming in on his face. And why Helsinki? Anna drives off with Muzz, her zigzagly circling Oktyabrskaya Square for 15 minutes, a cautious dance to shake any tales, before dropping him at a residential block housing foreign diplomats. The KGB identifies him, a diplomat named Muzz, tied to a Nordic embassy, a man whose diplomatic immunity makes him untouchable in Moscow. But Helsinki is another matter. Volkov orders an operation, coordinating with Finnish authorities to intercept Muzz at the border, his briefcase a ticking bomb of evidence. On the evening of his departure, Muzz boards a train at Leningradsky station, the icons hidden in his luggage, his face a mask of calm as he settles into his compartment. The Finnish border looms, but will the trap hold? And what will Muzz reveal under pressure, if he cracks at all? The Helsinki interception. Helsinki's border checkpoint is a fortress of bureaucracy. On a snowy November evening in 1990, the air sharp with the scent of pine and exhaust as Finnish customs officers wave through travelers with mechanical efficiency. Muz's train pulls in, its brakes screeching, the sound a jarring note in the quiet night. He steps onto the platform, his tailored coat a stark contrast to the bundled-up Finns, his briefcase clutched tightly, its contents a secret worth millions. But the Finnish authorities, tipped off by the KGB, are waiting, their eyes sharp as they pull him aside, their voices clipped as they demand to inspect his luggage. Muz's face remains a mask, but a bead of sweat betrays him, trickling down his temple as the officers open the briefcase, revealing 28 icons, priceless relics, their gold frames glinting in the harsh fluorescent light, their sacred faces a silent accusation. How did he think he'd get away with this? The officers wonder, their hands steady as they confiscate the hull. And who sent him? Muz is detained, his diplomatic status no shield in Helsinki, and the Finnish government declares him persona non grata, expelling him in disgrace. The icons are catalogued, their provenance traced back to Russian churches, including the Yaroslavl iconostasis stolen weeks earlier. The KGB celebrates a rare victory, but Volkov knows it's only a skirmish in a larger war. Muz's expulsion sends shockwaves through the smuggling ring, and in West Berlin, Viktor Likhovsky feels the tremor, his empire threatened by the loss of a shipment worth millions. But the chain isn't broken, Epel, Klimov, and Gladkik are still in play, and the bus couple's role is far from over. A second shipment is already in motion, this time through the Faraoni firm, an Italian transport company known for smuggling under the guise of diplomatic cargo. Who are the Faraonis working for? Volkov wonders, his fingers tracing a file on Likhovsky. And how long before he makes a fatal mistake? The Faraoni connection. Back in Moscow, the KGB's surveillance on Strelitskaya Street intensifies, their cameras capturing a new player in the game, a Volkswagen van belonging to the Faraoni firm, an Italian transport company with a reputation for moving diplomatic cargo and contraband. The van arrives at Epel's apartment under cover of darkness, the air thick with the scent of wet pavement and exhaust, the fog a suffocating veil as two men, Valerio and Leonardo Faraoni, sons of the firm's owner, unload 6 boxes from Epel's stairwell, their movements quick, their voices low. The boxes, filled with icons, are loaded into the van, their contents a secret worth 5,000 Deutsche Marks per shipment, a fortune in a city where bread is rationed. The KGB watches, their lenses trained on the van as it drives off, its taillights vanishing into the fog, another shipment bound for the west. Where are they taking them? The agents wonder, their radios crackling with urgency. And who is waiting on the other side? The Faraoni operation is a masterclass in deception, their diplomatic status a shield that lets them slip through borders with ease. But the KGB is closing in, their intelligence tracing the van's route to Brest, where the Belarusian border offers a final chance to intercept the shipment. Volkov coordinates with Brest Customs, his voice tight with anticipation as he orders a thorough search, knowing the icons are hidden among crates of vodka and caviar. The stakes are higher than ever, Likhovsky is growing restless in Berlin, his patience thinning as shipments fail, his creditors circling like vultures. The KGB knows he'll return to Moscow, a desperate move to rebuild his chain, but when? And what will he find when he steps back into the city that betrayed him? The fog thickens, and the answers remain just out of reach, waiting to spill their blood in the next chapter. Chapter 4, The Train to Nowhere. Viktor Likhovsky stepped off a train in Moscow, his eyes scanning the shadows for the KGB's waiting net, but what secret did he carry that would lead him straight to a Berlin alley and a bullet in the dark? The platform at Moscow's Kursky station is a frozen hell on a biting March morning in 1993, the air thick with the stench of diesel and the sharp, metallic tang of snow that's turned to slush underfoot. Viktor Likhovsky, 48, steps off the train from Berlin, his tailored coat a stark contrast to the patched Soviet jackets of the crowd, his face a mask of calculated calm that hides the storm raging within. His breath clouds in the frigid air, his eyes darting to every shadow, every face, as if he can feel the KGB's invisible noose tightening around his neck. He knows they're watching, 2 failed shipments, one in Helsinki, another in Brest, have cost him millions, his empire in West Berlin teetering on the edge of collapse, his creditors circling like vultures. Likhovsky, a former Soviet citizen turned antiquities kingpin, has returned to Moscow to rebuild his smuggling chain, but the city he left behind is a graveyard of secrets, and the icons he trades in carry a curse that's closing in. Why did he come back? The KGB agents wonder, their cameras hidden in the crowd, their radios crackling with anticipation. And what does he know that makes him worth the risk? A city of ghosts. Moscow in March 1993 is a city of ghosts, its streets a labyrinth of crumbling Soviet facades and flickering neon signs that promise a new era but deliver only chaos. The Soviet Union's collapse has left its people adrift, their lives defined by scarcity, empty shelves, endless bread lines, and a militia that's a shadow of its former self. The air smells of coal smoke and despair, the cold biting at exposed skin, and the city's underbelly thrives in the shadows, where icons, sacred relics of Russia's past, are a black market currency worth more than gold. Of the 80 million icons that once adorned the nation, only 20 million remain, the rest destroyed by Soviet purges or smuggled out in a cultural hemorrhage that began in 1917. West Berlin is the heart of this trade, where collectors pay fortunes for relics, and men like Likhovsky grow rich on the plunder, until the KGB began to close in. The Helsinki interception in November 1990, where a diplomat named Muz was caught with 28 icons, and the Brest seizure, where the Faroni firm's van was stopped with a crate of relics, have crippled Likhovsky's operation. The Bus couple, Anna and Vitaly, restaurators from Ivanovo, have been under surveillance since their meeting with Muz, their role in restoring the icons confirmed by wiretaps and informants. Michael Eppel, the middleman, and Yuri Gladkik, the broker at Komosomolskaya Square, are in custody, their confessions painting a picture of a network orchestrated by Alexander Klimov, a Soviet Army lieutenant colonel and lawyer whose military precision has kept him one step ahead. But Likhovsky's return is the break Colonel Dmitry Volkov has been waiting for, a chance to sever the head of the smuggling ring. What does Likhovsky have planned? Volkov wonders, his fingers tracing a file of Lubyanka, the air thick with the scent of stale coffee and urgency. And who is helping him rebuild the chain? Gali's dangerous game. Likhovsky doesn't come to Moscow alone, he arrives at the apartment of Gali Romanovskaya, a 38-year-old woman whose beauty masks a steel core, her 4-year relationship with Likhovsky a tangled web of love and danger. The apartment on Novy Arbat smells of lavender and cigarette smoke, a faint sweetness undercut by the tension that crackles in the air as Gali pours vodka with trembling hands, her eyes darting to the window where Moscow's skyline looms like a threat. She's been Likhovsky's lover, his confidant, but never his partner in crime, until now. The failed shipments have forced his hand, and Gali, with her connections in Moscow's underworld, is his last hope to rebuild the chain. What does he want from her? She wonders, her fingers tightening around the glass, the vodka burning her throat as she listens to his plan. And what happens if I say no? Likhovsky's voice is low, a growl that cuts through the silence, his words laced with desperation as he outlines the new route, a Moscow-Kiev train, a conductress named Ira in the 12th carriage, and a contact in Kiev named Sasha who will take the icons across the porous Russian-Ukrainian border. Gali's role is to coordinate, to meet with suppliers, to ensure the icons reach the train, tasks Likhovsky once delegated to Eppel and Gladkik, now in KGB custody. She nods, her face a mask, but her heart pounds with the weight of what she's agreed to, the icons a curse she can feel in her bones. The KGB's wiretap catches every word, their agents listening from a van parked across the street, the air inside thick with the scent of sweat and anticipation. Who is Sasha? They wonder, their pencils scratching notes in the dim light. And how does Likhovsky plan to get past the border this time? The Moscow-Kiev operation. Kiev Sky Station is a hive of activity on a snowy March evening in 1993, the air sharp with the scent of exhaust and the faint, metallic tang of the tracks as trains screech into the platform. Gali arrives in a Mercedes, her face pale, her hands steady as she oversees the handover, the crate of icons, a dozen relics, their gold frames restored by Anna Bus, loaded into the trunk by 2 of her assistants, their movements quick, their eyes darting to the crowd. The station smells of burnt bread and desperation, the cold biting at their skin as they approach the 12th carriage of the Moscow-Kiev train, where Ira, a conductress with tired eyes, waits with a forced smile. Gali hands her the crate, a wad of 7,000 rubles slipping into her palm, the deal sealed with a lie. It's a package for Sasha in Kiev. Does Ira know what's inside? The KGB agents wonder, their hidden cameras capturing every move, their lenses trained on Gali as she walks away, her steps quick, her breath shallow. And who is Sasha, the man waiting at the other end? The KGB has prepared for this moment, their operation a web of surveillance that stretches from Moscow to the border, their agents positioned at the station, on the train, and at the Russian-Ukrainian checkpoint, their radios crackling with updates. The train pulls out, its wheels screeching, the sound a jarring note in the quiet night, and the KGB follows, their cars trailing at a distance, their hearts pounding as the border looms. The Russian-Ukrainian border, newly drawn and porous, is a smuggler's dream, but the KGB has tipped off the Ukrainian customs officers, their orders clear: stop the train, search the 12th carriage, seize the crate. At the checkpoint, the train slows, its brakes groaning, and the officers board, their flashlights cutting through the darkness as they find Ira, her face pale, her hands trembling as she hands over the crate. The icons are uncovered, their gold frames glinting in the harsh light, their sacred faces a silent accusation as Ira is detained, her protests swallowed by the night. Who is Sasha? The officers wonder, their radios crackling with the news of the seizure. And what will Likhovsky do when he learns he's lost another shipment? The Berlin Reckoning. In West Berlin, Likhovsky's empire is crumbling, his creditors tightening their grip as the news of the Kiev seizure reaches him, the air in his opulent office thick with the scent of cigar smoke and rage. The Helsinki interception, the Brest failure, and now this, 3 strikes that have cost him millions, his reputation in tatters, his allies turning against him. He paces, his hands trembling, his mind racing as he realizes the noose is tightening, the KGB closer than ever to severing his chain. His creditors, impatient and ruthless, demand payment, their threats a shadow that follows him through Berlin's cobblestone streets. On a cold December night in 1993, Likhovsky steps into a dark alley, his breath clouding in the frigid air, his eyes darting to every shadow as he meets a contact, a man whose face he doesn't recognize, a man whose gun is already drawn. A single shot echoes through the alley, Likhovsky's body crumpling to the ground, his blood staining the cobblestones, his empire ending in a whisper of violence. Who pulled the trigger? The Berlin police wonder, their flashlights cutting through the darkness as they find his body. And what secret did he take to his grave? Back in Moscow, Volkov receives the news, his face a mask of grim satisfaction as he closes Likhovsky's file, the air at Lubyanka thick with the scent of stale coffee and victory. But the chain isn't fully broken, Epel, Klimov, and the Bus couple are in custody, their trial looming, and the icons, recovered from the train, are a bittersweet triumph. What did Likhovsky know that made him a target? Volkov wonders, his fingers tracing the edge of a recovered icon, its gold frame glinting in the dim light. And how many more relics are still out there, waiting to spill their blood? The answers remain just out of reach, waiting to be uncovered in the final chapter. Chapter 5, The Echoes of the Lost. In a Moscow courtroom, the smugglers faced the weight of their sins, but as the icons were returned to the light, a shadow lingered over Russia's soul. What curse did they carry that still haunts the city streets? The Moscow Regional Courtroom is a cavern of faded Soviet glory on a stark April morning in 1994, its cracked benches creaking under the weight of a packed gallery, the air thick with the scent of damp wool and the faint, acrid tang of fear. Families of the victims, village priests, museum curators, and collectors who paid with their lives, clutch photographs of stolen icons, their eyes red with tears, their whispers a prayer for justice that's been a long time coming. At the front, Michael Epel, Alexander Klimov, and Anna and Vitaly Bus stand in the dock, their faces a gallery of defiance and despair, their hands cuffed as the judge's gavel hovers like a guillotine. The evidence table is a grim altar, a recovered iconostasis from Yaroslavl, its gold frame glinting in the dim light, alongside crates seized from the Moscow-Kiev train, their sacred contents a silent accusation. Viktor Likhovsky, the mastermind who bled Russia dry from West Berlin, is dead, gunned down in a Berlin alley in December 1993, his blood a final payment for a debt he couldn't outrun. But the chain he forged remains, its links forged in greed and broken in blood, and the trial is Moscow's last chance to sever it. What did Likhovsky take to his grave? The gallery whispers, their voice is a low hum of anticipation. And will the icons ever find peace? A city scarred by loss. Moscow in 1994 is a city scarred by its own history, its streets a patchwork of crumbling Soviet facades and the garish neon of a new capitalist dawn. The Soviet Union's collapse has left its people adrift, their lives defined by scarcity, empty shelves, endless bread lines, and a militia struggling to keep pace with a crime wave that spiraled out of control. The air smells of coal smoke and wet pavement, the cold a constant ache in the bones, and the city's underbelly thrives in the shadows, where icons, sacred relics of Russia's past, have become a black market currency worth more than gold. Of the 80 million icons that once adorned the nation, only 20 million remain, the rest destroyed by Soviet purges or smuggled out in a cultural hemorrhage that began in 1917. West Berlin was the heart of this trade, where collectors paid fortunes for relics, and men like Likhovsky grew rich on the plunder, until the KGB severed the chain. The Helsinki interception in November 1990, where a diplomat named Muz was caught with 28 icons, the Brest seizure of the Faraoni firm's shipment, and the Moscow-Kiev train operation in March 1993 have dismantled Likhovsky's network, piece by bloody piece. The bus couple, Anna and Vitaly, restaurators from Ivanovo, were the linchpins, their hands restoring the icons that fueled the trade, their lives unraveling under the KGB's relentless surveillance. Michael Eppel, the middleman, and Yuri Gladkik, the broker at Komosomolskaya Square, were cogs in the machine, their roles exposed by the KGB's wiretaps and informants. Alexander Klimov, a Soviet army lieutenant colonel and lawyer, was the architect, his military precision orchestrating the network until the KGB closed in. Likhovsky's return to Moscow, his desperate bid to rebuild the chain through Gali Romanovskaya, ended in Berlin, his body left in a dark alley, a bullet in his skull. Who pulled the trigger? The Berlin police asked, their investigation yielding nothing but whispers of angry creditors. And what did Likhovsky know that made him a target? The trial of shadows. The trial unfolds like a grim theater, each day peeling back another layer of the smuggling ring's terror. The prosecution presents a mountain of evidence, the icons seized in Helsinki, Brest, and Kiev, their gold frames glinting with the weight of centuries, wiretaps of Gali and Likhovsky, their voices crackling with desperation, and the testimony of Yuri Gladkik, whose confessions paint a chilling picture of a network that traded in faith and ended in blood. Anna Bus takes the stand, her hands trembling, her voice barely a whisper as she recounts the night spent restoring the icons, their sacred faces haunting her dreams, her fear of Likhovsky a shadow that never lifted. Vitaly, beside her, is a broken man, his eyes hollow as he admits to the deals in Kotelniki Lane, the fear that drove him to comply. Eppel, the middleman, remains defiant, his store directors suit a mockery of his crimes, while Klimov, the mastermind, sits with a soldier's stoicism, his face a mask as the prosecution accuses him of orchestrating the chain that bled Russia dry. The gallery holds its breath as the judge delivers the verdict, guilty on all counts, organized crime, smuggling, and accessory to murder. Eppel and Klimov are sentenced to 15 years, their faces stone as they're led away, while Anna and Vitaly receive 10 years, their tears a silent plea for a mercy that's already gone. The courtroom erupts in gasps and sobs, families clutching the recovered icons, 28 from Helsinki, more from Brest and Kiev, their gold frames a bittersweet triumph. But Volkov, watching from the back, feels no victory, the air at Lubyanka thick with the scent of stale coffee and regret as he closes the case file. What did Likhovsky take to his grave? He wonders, his fingers tracing the edge of a recovered icon, its gold frame glinting in the dim light. And how many more relics are still out there, fueling a trade that refuses to die? The icons return. The recovered icons are returned to the Patriarchate, their journey a pilgrimage through a city that's forgotten how to pray. A small ceremony in Yaroslavl sees the iconostasis reinstalled, its gold frame glowing in the candlelight, the saint's mournful gazes a silent prayer for a nation scarred by loss. The air smells of incense and melted wax, the same scent that filled the church on the night it was stolen, but the village priest's hands tremble as he blesses the relic, his voice breaking with the weight of what's been lost. Of the 80 million icons that once adorned Russia, only 20 million remain, and the trade continues, its shadow stretching from Moscow to Berlin, its players replaced by new faces, their greed a curse that refuses to die. How many more icons are out there? The priest wonders, his fingers tracing the Virgin's sorrowful face. And what price will Russia pay before they're all gone? Moscow's reflection. Moscow in 1995 is a city caught between its past and future, its streets buzzing with the tentative hum of a new era, but the scars of the 1990s run deep. The air smells of coal smoke and wet pavement, the cold a constant ache, and the city's churches, once stripped bare, are slowly coming back to life, their domes glinting in the pale sunlight. The trial has returned some of the icons, but the black market thrives, its players learning from Likhovsky's mistakes, their routes more sophisticated, their reach wider. Vitaly Romanovskaya, spared from the trial, disappears into the shadows, her role in the smuggling chain a secret she'll take to her grave, her lavender-scented apartment now a ghost of what it was. Volkov retires, his dreams haunted by the faces of the icons he couldn't save, their gold frames a reminder of a war he's still fighting. The 1990s rewrote Moscow's rules, turning the city into a battleground for faith and greed, where icons became currency, and the price was paid in blood. The recovered relics stand as a testament to a past that refuses to die, but their return is bittersweet, a reminder of the millions still lost, their fates unknown, their voices silent. How many more icons remain in the shadows? The city whispers, its streets a labyrinth of secrets that refuse to rest. And what curse do they carry, waiting to claim the next soul in a game that never ends?
Don't scroll past. Hit like and subscribe if you're ready for the next twisted story.